Athlete Builder back at it. You don't know this, but this is round two for those not playing at home. So we're welcoming Eric Mitchell. Don't call him a track guy because he played football and he ran track, but he wasn't compete. He started competing in the sprints in his late 30s. So he's a Parisi Speed School master coach. So shout out Chad Coy, episode 48, and Bill Parisi, episode 58. So played in high school, played in college. Now he's working with youth, making people better, making adults better, right? And he's out in Philadelphia, but he's a Steelers fan, and being from Cleveland, I'll talk slower, even though they have a lot more rings than I'll ever see. So, Eric, just man, looking forward to having you on the show. I'm glad Chad hooked us up. Thank you for being here today.
Me as well. Really excited about this. And just one thing I want to tell you. So I started sprinting actually when I was 8 years old, and then sprinted all the way until I was 36 years old. My last race was actually anchoring against Maurice Green at the Penn Relays in the Olympic Developmental Men's Program before they started USA versus the World. Let's just say I kind of raced against Maurice Green.
So, you saw a lot of him from behind.
Yes, I did. And I ran my fastest 100-meter split time, and it looked like I was standing still. So,
whole different animal.
Yes.
My goodness. I ran a lot, too, when I was younger, but it's usually because I was in trouble.
I knew you were going to say that.
No. Wasn't always caught. I had some couple mistakes, here and there.
Sure.
I don't know if my mom always listened to the show. I don't know if she remembers the lawn jart incident and cross the street with the neighbor. I threw that in the above ground pool, but there's everybody has to run at one point or another. But Lucas running back in college, so still has a lot of high school records too for his school. So
that's
ran
great.
The ball a little bit here and there. I ran, believe it or not, I ran 5'7". I ran 300 hurdles in high school also.
Whoa,
yeah.
No, thank you. I'll take it. No hurdles.
I ran it, and I don't think I once ever enjoyed practicing it. I didn't enjoy running it in meets. It was an absolute wreck.
It's a tough event. That's a tough one, man.
I would get on there, and my technique was good enough. I looked like I could, I looked like a hurdler, but I had no sense of when to go all out, when to kind of pull up, when to, I didn't count my steps. I just sprinted as hard as I could and jumped over the hurdles.
That's probably what I would have done. That's how I long jumped. I just jumped down and barreled down the straightaway and jumped as far as I could. No technique.
I did run the 110 hurdles and got disqualified because it was just me and another guy. Why they were having us do it, I think we both got disqualified because we couldn't get our legs, couldn't clear it. I think because there's just two middle lanes, so the left side I didn't have a hurdle to me, so my left leg just kind of went around it every time. I think they honestly put me in it just to laugh at me, but whatever. I laughed at myself, so
that's a good thing.
Chad Dockery's been on the show, one of our episodes, and he's the AD down at Wright's Memorial in Evansville. Been a friend to me and Lucas for a while, and football coach, track coach, and he had my son in football for all 4 years, but also ran track. Jack ran some track, and his freshman year, Chad makes him run and puts him at the 400 relay at the end.
Yeah.
And as a freshman, and I'm like, oh man, Chad. And so Chad is just, he's along the fence. He's talking to me. He was in my neighborhood. We lived real near each other, and he's been nothing but great to my boy. And
that's great.
He's like, hey, watch this. Jack doesn't know what he's doing here in this 400. So he takes off hot, and he's coming around. He goes, hey, Jim, watch this. Watch this back straight away. And you just see him, like the speed he's just dying. He's dying. He comes around that second turn, and he's coming towards the finish line, and Chad's in the infield, and Jack crosses the finish line right in that inside lane, and as soon as he crosses the line, like he crosses, and he just lays down in the grass, and he's like, I'm done. I can't move. I'm never running that far again in my life. And Chad was just in tears, and so was I. And I was like, oh, that is a painful race.
It's horrible.
Horrible.
I had to run it in college, and I dreaded every single time. I dreaded it, and but But you have to. In the small school, you have no choice. There's probably 6 total sprinters, and you better run it. So you have to.
Right.
So I had to get behind it and be like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
just going to do it. And I used to get this triple wheeze every time I'd come. I'd be about 50 meters left. I'd be like, as I was running down the straightaway.
Just wheezing, just praying for death.
Yeah,
it's the very last one. Everybody's watching you. Everybody's excited. It's the most exciting event of the whole day, and it's a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
For the freshmen, the parents just want to go home. We're tired. It's 9 o'clock. It's like, geez, oh, Pete, let's get going here. But I get it, man. It's awesome. Now, we got to thank Chad Coy, for hooking us up. And good dude.
Thank him.
Love him to death.
Yep.
But I remember you saying off camera that you seen him walk around in his underwear way too many times.
Yeah, because I have to bunk with him a lot of times. We have a Parisi summit coming up, and all the master coaches said, "Hey, we're not 25 now. We need our own rooms out in Arizona." Yeah, and Chad would walk around. He was literally like a grizzly bear, and he would just walk up to me and be like, "Here, take this," and I was almost compelled to take it. I didn't even know what he was giving me, but I was compelled to take it because it's Chad. So he's a walking supplement laboratory, basically. Whenever we go away, he'd say, "You don't mind me taking up the TV console? It's my stuff." And I said, "As long as I can get some of that stuff, yeah." Some of he always has the best protein bars and the best protein and everything like that. So I don't mind. But yep, I've seen him walk around in his underwear with a CPAP machine getting ready to go. So. But I love the guy. Wouldn't change it up.
He's in my gym. He brings a crew. He's on his way. Maybe it was 2 years ago to a Swiss conference where he's going to be speaking. And so they're all getting a lift in. He's doing some strongman prep for a contest. He has some power lifters, some other student athletes. They're all lifting, right? And it's just fun. We're just hanging out. It's probably like a Thursday. He has a weekend conference. And so he's done. Like, we have bathrooms. There's my office also where he could change and other stuff. He just strips right there in the gym in front of everybody.
Yep.
Strips on down.
That's him.
And like me, he's wearing a sweater underneath all his clothes. And you walk around in his underwear. I was like, there's running cameras here, pal. So I'm putting all that footage online. And he did not give a shit. He's like, whatever.
He doesn't care one bit.
He sure doesn't.
Well, Jim, Lucas, let me tell you something about him. We were in Wichita for a certification. We were at a YMCA, and they had platforms and everything like that. He stacks up this bar. He's about ready to squat, gets under the bar snaps in half, and all the weights come crashing down on the floor. So they come running upstairs. They're like, "You're not supposed to be lifting like that much weight here. You're not supposed to do that." And, then he starts getting into this discussion about that they have. Why do you have a platform then? If it was this whole thing. He leaves a trail of destruction sometimes at certifications. He'll break barbells in different places. And it's pretty remarkable to watch. But I've seen him do that a couple times now.
How'd you guys meet up?
So being in the Parisi Speed School, and I started in 2005 in Parisi. I bought my Parisi franchise. He was the second one. I was the third one, but I didn't meet him until 2014. He came down to a Parisi summit in Orlando. And I was doing a presentation on the culture of coaching down there. And we just met up. We all played flag football. That's when I eventually had to get. So I have 2 artificial knees, guys. I've got 2 total knee replacements. And that flag football game caused the second one to go.
No shit.
Second knee to go. Yeah, I'd had microfracture surgeries. And I love those. I stayed awake for those. I watched the surgery of the microfracture. And then when I asked them if I could do the total knee awake, they're like, "What, you out of your effing mind? Go watch a video of what that looks like."
Right.
So I had that done, but that's how I met Chad. And like I said, since 2014, we've been fast friends. And I just talked to Chad today about some things. And it's one of those guys you can always call. He's always there, always pick up the phone for you, which is
absolutely true.
Yeah.
And you're right about the supplements. He just introduced me to Anthony Castor.
Oh yeah.
So I had him on. I think it was last week, and learned about peptides and the summit we're hosting here. Like Parisi has theirs. I have one, and it's going to be June 7th. And and Castor is going to be one of the speakers. So
I'd like to get out there for that.
We will have you.
Yes. So
you talk about culture.
Yeah.
And you're giving a a clinic on culture,
Yeah.
and it's always top down. Do you have any 3, 4, 5 words that help crystallize the culture for not only Parisi but for you and what you're trying to instill at your gym with your athletes? So we have our 6 core values, and
Yeah.
one that
I
kind of pushes
think
them all. So I
what,
want
tell
to
me,
see if you guys.
you want to tell me yours, or you want me to kind of see what, if we all match up?
Ours starts with integrity. You got to do your best,
That's what I did.
right?
Yep.
Number 2 is discipline. You got to do your best all the time. That's where the discipline comes in. If you're doing your best, you want to do it in the manner where Kaizen comes in, where you're trying to get better. Can't do it that well alone. That's why I added in teamwork, right? It can't be always just grinding. You got to actually love the grind, even the shitty part. But if you can do it with other folks, enjoyment has to be there. You got to have to like what you're doing. If it's absolutely miserable, it's not sustainable. And then the last piece, my first tattoo is the word sisu from Finland.
Love it.
When you're at your worst, you just don't give up. And if you apply that Tim Grover's book, Relentless, we try to apply those 6 words relentlessly. Don't I often fail with all 6 of them, but that's the approach. Try to apply those 6 relentlessly, and if we can make decisions based on those 6 words, then usually we're doing okay.
Well, I tell you, we have very similar philosophies. I mean, integrity is one of my big one. Character is the key as well. Self-discipline is important. We always separate from the kids to get them to understand that self-discipline is doing what you're supposed to do when you're
Yep.
supposed to do it, not being told when to do it. You should know. Enjoyment's another piece of it. They got to enjoy what they're doing. They got to have a passion and a love for it. I'm a huge fan of Sisu, Jim. I'll tell you why. I was involved in training for Warriors with Martin Rooney for 11 years.
Wow.
I was the first affiliate for training for Warriors in the entire world. And Sisu is a big one for us because it's huge in Finland, and the fact that it really stemmed from the Russo-Finnish War of 1939, where the Finns would come screaming down mountains on skis with double machine guns in hands, blasting away at Soviet troops. And that's one of the core values in TFW was Sisu, like the actual word was there. Kaizen was there too.
Right.
But in Parisi, with younger athletes, I mean, the intensity level is a little bit different. So we're not, I like the Sisu part. I think it should be in there. But, looking at these kids and teaching that level of integrity, character, self-discipline, I also want them to be really imbued in leadership. Teaching leadership is so important to me because I think we have we have a culture of kids that, well, I'll tell you, I think it's adults too. It's everybody. There's a lack of self-confidence and a lack of belief now out there. And it got worse for the kids during the pandemic. I have a son who just turned 15 today. My son Cole's 15 today. And,
Awesome.
you look at what these kids are going through now, the youth of America. And unfortunately, you have a generation of parents that they don't know how to teach them any of the values that you laid out, any of the values that I laid out. They want their kids to have it, but they're so afraid to really step up and put that mindset into kids.
Yeah.
I'm 57, and I grew up in a corporal punishment world. We did things. We got the consequences were pretty severe, but we
Sure.
usually did things that made sure there's a reason why we got that corporal punishment, because we were terrible. And
Anytime I got in trouble or hit, it's not because I didn't deserve it.
yeah, that's what I said.
I absolutely deserved it. 100%.
Well, I don't know if kids these days, guys, I mean, in my thought process when I was a kid, if I did something, I would always in the back of my head going, when my parents find out,
Yeah.
I'm going to have, this is the consequences. I don't think kids have it nowadays. There's no consequences of anything. And even for us as coaches, and especially in youth sports performance, man, it is brutal to listen to. Guys, I just had a parent say to me, I don't want my kids doing any strength training. So mind you, they're a 14-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. So I asked why. And they laid out all this stuff that's, 30, 40 years old, and you just don't do that. And when I tried to really explain it there, they said, well, we're just going to take them somewhere else where they're going to do what we want. And I'm at the point in my career now where I'm like, that's great. Take them. I'm sorry. I disagree with you.
Yeah.
You're setting your kids up for self-confidence issues and also injury.
Yep.
So, but that's the problem, I think, is that that's where we are. It
You know,
sucks.
you guys talking about it, and it's, where I'm at and where I coach, I see it every single day, all the time. It's, you know, I think there's a lot of, especially with coaches and parents, I don't think I think everybody's afraid to hold a kid accountable or to enforce discipline on kids these days. I know a lot of feelings get involved and a lot of you got to understand how they feel and what they're coming from. Well, you know, a lot of times I'll tell our kids like your circumstance in life, what you're going through right now, can't always dictate everything that happens to you. You may be going through a tough time. Maybe you don't always have food. Maybe you don't always have the right shoes. Maybe you're not always prepared. Whatever it may be, everybody's going through something, but your circumstance can't dictate how you handle your business every single day. If for kids are going to mess up, they're going to slip up, but you can't just fall back on what you base your life on. And my circumstance, it can't always be the dictator of your performance, your responsibilities. I just see it all the time. I think coaches and parents just want to be more friends than a coach or a parent. And it's every single day.
I don't want to be that at all.
No,
I really don't. No. I don't even like it. And I don't want someone that's coaching me to be that way. Like we can be friendly afterwards, but it's like if I'm paying you and I'm paying a kid right now to coach me for swimming, I don't want him to like fuck around and worry about my feelings because my swim is across the Hudson River, right? If I'm not prepared, like take out the scenario, like what's the next iteration? And you're not prepared and you drown, right? Like you get pulled out, like someone's like yank you out of there. No. I think we can bitch about this all day long, and I do. I think there's a couple things. One, it's selfish for coaches and parents to alleviate the stress for the kids.
Agreed.
Because they're alleviating how the kid feels, and you empathize for that kid, so you internally feel like, oh, that kid's hurting, that kid's struggling, that kid's crying, like whatever. I'm not trying to make the kid cry, but some people are upset about whatever happens, and it hurts. The bars on the back hurts, and they get beat in a sprint, or they get tackled and smashed, and it hurts. And they take away the pain. Well, it makes me feel better because you're not hurting now. That's how I'm being selfish. I'm taking away your pain. I'm not giving you chores to do. I'm not making you pay for anything. I'm taking it all away so I don't feel that pain. I make your life easier so you love me more. And what I tell these kids is that, hey, are you going to come across? I tell adults the same thing too, because this is true, and this is how I mean it. If I come to you and I'm asking you to push a little bit more, or try a little bit harder, or go an extra rep or set, is anyone else going to come across you in the next 24 hours that's going to care enough to say, hey, man, I want you to be a little bit better in this moment so you could build a habit and build who you are and let it trickle down to the rest of your family and everyone else? Like, and I say it like that because this is what I'm trying to do. You don't have to, but I'm trying to get you better all the time. It's all I really give a shit about.
Yeah, and I mean, you're setting them up for failure if we do that as they're adults. I mean, that's just ultimately what we're looking at. We're trying to develop great citizens.
Yes,
I just think that we're leaving out a component of success if we're not telling them the truth. Listen, guys, I hired a business coach. I'm in my 50s. I hired a business coach to make some changes for some other things I'm going to be doing. I don't want him to tell me like, oh, you're doing great, Eric. No, fuck that. I want him to tell me this is the shit you have to work on to get better. You want to be more financially secure. You're going to do this. Yes. And I think that's again, I don't want him like just telling me stuff. Tell me what's real, what I'm not doing.
Because at some point it gets real.
Yeah.
Kids going to go to high school or college or afterwards, and it's going to be real. And having them be able to jump through the portal so many times, there's no consequences there because things aren't going well. They just move on to the next school. What they don't realize is a lot of those kids that jump in the portal either have to jump back or they never go anywhere else. And they're just out. So some move up and some move down.
Yep.
And some just fade. Right? And then what you'll always hear is, oh man, the coach didn't like me. I had a rough deal. Yeah, the coach doesn't like a lot of people. And the coaches are flawed, just like we all are, and they're going to make some judgment mistakes on the scheme or the athlete or whatever, because we all make those things. And you still have to move forward somehow. You don't just get to roll over and die and quit, right? Because core value. So, fuck. Anyways, I've never heard of training for warriors. What is that?
Yeah, so that was the system. So the education director of Parisi for many years was Martin Rooney, and Martin was training MMA fighters for many years in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and then he created this program, Training for Warriors. So, guys, I mean, essentially, here's what it is: it's a metabolic training system. It involves a lot of sprinting and a lot of lifting. But it was patterned after fighters to imitate what it felt like to be going round for round, not getting punched in the face. Obviously, you're not going to have housewives getting punched in the face and salespeople, but it was designed around that. So you had hurricane days, which were metabolic metcon days, and then you had lifting days, which were all, if you looked at it, you guys would look at a TFW program and go, well, that's a collegiate strength program. That's what it is in the end. But it was marketed really well. Martin was a brilliant marketer, still is, and it was a design system for adults. And we piggybacked it on our Parisi program. And I mean, my certifying class, guys, I was with, let's see, the fitness instructors from the 75th Ranger Battalion, the fitness instructors from the 82nd Airborne Division, and I also was in there with the Navy SEALs. Here I am, a fitness guy. So we were all out one night. You're gonna love this story. And I'm talking to these guys, and I said, "So what do you do for a living?" This dude, look, he stops. He's got his shot. He just turns his head to me and he goes, "Do you really want to know what I do for a living?" And I
Yes.
said, "Yes." And he goes, "I kick doors in and I shoot motherfuckers in the head." That's what he said. And I go, "I'm a fitness guy. I train football players." So I'm like, "I'm not a warrior." Like, dude, you're a warrior. And this is the kind of guy where, we were doing a push-up test. He did 97 push-ups before he stopped and said, "Do I have to do more? Do you want me to do more?" Which I thought was just sick. It was a sick thing. So I haven't been involved in TFW for a while now, but I still train like that. Even with, it's actually kept me going with these two artificial knees. I'm in probably the best shape I've been in 10 years in the last 6 months.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man. So did Martin Rooney, did he train MMA guys that would fight in the octagon like professionally?
Yes. Frankie Egger. He trained, he still does, Jim Miller, who's one of the most decorated fighters. I'm friends with Jim. I know him from Training for Warriors. I'm trying to think of some other guys. BJ Penn was up there for a little bit, training with them up in Fair Lawn. The Gracies were all there. I met every single one of the Gracies. So
Wow.
there was a pedigree in that, not just from TFW, but from Parisi as well. And I've been pretty blessed, guys. I've been exposed not just to, youth sports performance, but I've trained professional tennis players, pro football players, baseball players, like everything you can think of. And, you know, they have the same issues that what the kids do when they walk in the door. The same confidence issues, the same integrity issues, the same character issues. So we're literally speaking the same language when we're dealing with the professional athletes as well. And sometimes you're like, I had a pro tennis player. She was like, I stink. My footwork's awful. I'm terrible. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You're
Can't say that.
ranked in the top 20 in the world.
Right.
And you're like, it would blow my mind away. But then I started to realize, well, wait a second. They are human,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how I felt whenever I spent a lot of time working with a couple different Division I programs, and I always thought Division I athletes were just always locked in super machines that were just athletic, and they're no different than any other college athlete. They're very talented, and
yeah,
they're good at what they do. But they're emotional. They get into it. They fall off. They get back on, and that's one thing that surprised me a lot was just how human like these Division I guys are.
That's true. So. It's true.
When you have someone dealing with a confidence issue,
mm-hmm.
what habits or tricks or Jedi mind stuff do you throw at them to help them have a better perspective or build that up or work on it?
Well, I go back to this. Well, first I have to ask every single person that walks in the door, do you have belief in yourself? That's the number one thing. Do you believe in what you're doing? And a lot of these, you'll get this answer. Yeah, I do. You'll get some kids that are really supremely confident, but you'll have most of these kids will come in, or even at the elite levels. I call it like this, guys. It's literally the building blocks of success. So I always ask them in school, could you write a story without knowing the alphabet? And they'll all say, no, I can't do that. Well, yeah, it's the same as in training. If you don't learn the fundamentals, all the fundamentals, that's the alphabet of training. How can you expect to be great at what you do going forward? You can't form words, you can't form sentences, no paragraphs, then there's no story. It's the same thing in training. If I don't build the fundamentals, because here's what these kids think. They think they're coming in and they should already know this stuff. So we were working with a bunch of kids with a 5-10-5. And I said to them, there's a system behind this. I said that it's a story. If you look at the way the 5-10-5 is designed and how you teach it, and have you ever done the 5-10-5? The one kid was like, no, I've never done it. How can you expect to be good at it? And I usually use this analogy. Like if I'm dealing with lacrosse players, I say, guys, let me ask you a question. Do you have total competence with the ball and the stick? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, okay, so take me out there. And I go out there and I've never carried the stick before or handled the ball. You think that I'm going to do well with that? I said, now your job is to help me feel comfortable and confident doing that. And then they start to get that. I say, can you teach me that? But I'm going to be in a stage of unconscious incompetence. I won't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yes.
It's a learning process. So I tried to slow it down to make it faster. So we always tell the kids, when you roll into here, you're in a sports performance, you're in a speed school, but you're going to learn to slow things down to make them faster. Because these kids are working, they're human highlight reels. All they think about is, oh, I got to look good. I got to look good. I got to look good. And I'm baffled by, if I have a line of kids, like I have a lacrosse group, I have 185 teenage girls in this one lacrosse group on the weekends. So we train them. And the first thing they do is if they mess up, they laugh hysterically. So that's the one way the kids will deal with it, right? Or they get pissed and then they throw a tantrum and they get really mad. Or they're always looking to see for approval because that's all they want is approval. And I'm telling them, you need to focus on what you're doing. Get your approval from you first. I'm going to give you the input. And I, Jim, it is like that. I'm a Star Wars fan, so I love Jedi stuff, but I like the dark side stuff. So the evil guys. So the Jedi mind trick is getting them to believe in themselves and tell them to slow it down. It doesn't. You don't have to win every single thing you're doing. You don't. My girlfriend's daughter was in my program for many years. She was a pole vaulter and a sprinter and a hurdler, and she'd have to win every single. Like we'd be doing an acceleration day. I'd say, you don't have to beat every single boy. And Kayla would go, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so the psyche of these kids now is that's what it's about. They have to win. I'm trying to get them to understand, like, get the fundamentals down. If you're good enough, you'll win. I think that's really what it is in the end.
Like anybody, they're so protective of their ego, like they should be, especially at a younger age, because you're really vulnerable and you're not really 50 years old where you're like, hey man, I don't give a shit. Just you don't at 50 you don't give a shit, right? But at 14 or 8, you give a shit. And so if I ask a kid, hey, you believe in yourself, I might couch it like, do you believe in yourself overall? And you say, yeah. And it says, but you probably don't believe in yourself yet in here because a lot of these things I'm gonna have you never even heard of. But if you believe in yourself overall and you trust me, we will work together. And then I want to phrase it also that with those girls, you got about 100 to 150 mess ups just to get to like from an F to a D and a D to a C. So we're going to try to get through all these mess ups quickly so we can get you that D level athlete in the weight room and then a C level athlete next year. You set the expectation that you're supposed to look silly. And you guys want to look good, and you guys want to look good, feel good, play good. Well, right now you're Bambi on ice over here, and how you're running this 5-10-5. I'm going to make you look good, and the 5-10-5 is about a dance and the flow of the movement going from back and forth. It's not herky jerky and tension and struggle and anger. It's flow, right? And can you pivot? So if you kind of find some way, and at 50, it's hard to find the words. No cap, when you're talking about how these kids talk, and oh my God, because I'm using all the old words like that's totally awesome, dude. And they're like,
yeah, I hear you.
Like, shut up. But if you can get that connection and let them know that they are enough, regardless of how they do, and give them the chance to be vulnerable and fuck up, in this space. Hey, we want to fuck up here, so you're better out there.
I love it.
You got it. You got a shot at reaching them, and you got to be relentless with that because they don't. The next day they forgot it already.
Well, I think storytelling is a big piece of it. So a big thing for me is storytelling. So I actually did a whole thing for Parisi at one of our summits on the art of storytelling for coaches and how you tell stories. So every single time,
It's
my
huge.
coaches in Parisi, and if I go out, so every single class, doesn't matter if it's just a membership class or if it's a team training class, there's a story behind it. And I tell the coaches, we have a ton of stories in the Parisi ledger, but guys, go out and find your own story. Go out
Sure.
and go find something different. You connect with those kids, and they love story time. So even my when I would do my combine work with my guys, they'd be adults going, "Let's do story time. Can we do that? Can we do story time?" Because people want to hear stories and everything, man. Cultures across the world, everything's built around storytelling, and it's built around how do you make the next generation better. Like that's to me, that's what the three of us are doing. We're making generational changes. That's why coaching's so important. I know Chad brought this up. Like, I don't call people trainers because that's trainers going to impact kind of the moment. A
Mm-hmm.
coach is going to impact kids for the rest of their lives. And I still listen, guys. I have coaches that are married with their own kids, bringing their kids back. I have coaches that you'll love this story, Lucas, because it's a high school connection. I trained a kid, Nate Hoey, I was 22 years old when I started coaching. Nate and his future wife, they're 18 years old when I'm coaching. I'm 22. They both coach in a school in Vermont now, track and field, college. So Nate calls me. This is about a year ago. He calls me. He goes, "Hey, coach, I wanted to talk to you about a couple things with clearing the blocks and everything like that." And I go, "Nate, dude, I'm 56. You're like 53, 54 now. We're contemporaries. You don't need to call me coach." And he goes, I just can't do that. I just can't do it. Then you really think to yourself that, yeah, man, coaching's timeless, man. Respect is timeless. Because
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about, Tim, when you imbue kind of culture into these kids, it's different than anything they've ever experienced at home, at school. There's nothing like a coach.
Yes.
Greatest asset in this country is our coaches.
Hmm. Because it's beyond you and it's generational, and
Yeah,
that I can, and it funnels out, not down and in. So if I impact you, then you have your girlfriend and her child, and then your child. So then there's four people right there.
that's right.
I had a moment today at lunch, and I was taking 30 minutes for lunch. I was upstairs and I'm eating my food, and I'm done in like 5-10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm taking 30 minutes. I'm decompressing for a minute. I'm like, I don't want to scroll and do all that bullshit. So I like to put on ESPN documentaries. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pick the first one that comes up, and it's the Red Wings versus the Avalanche, and they're talking about this fight from I think '97. And I didn't get through it. I only got through about 20, 25 minutes of it. I had to stop it and then go back to work. But I wanted to share the story because I thought, oh man, when it talks about attention to detail and being relentless, and it's not really didn't really flow right now in this conversation, but I don't want to forget it, so I want to tell
Yeah,
you.
gotcha. I love it.
So Patrick Waugh is a Hall of Fame goaltender. Okay. And he is in the middle of one game. The blade of his stick breaks, and they can't sub him out, and they can't sub a stick into him because the play is still going. So he's playing with just his stick with no blade,
Mm.
and someone scored on him, and he's pissed. Right? Game ends. Next day he shows up to practice, and he takes another stick and then cuts the blade, breaks the blade off. And he's practicing the whole game or the whole practice for the next couple of days with this stick with no blade because I'm never going to get fucking beat by that again. I'm going to have a process. I'm going to figure it out. How do I block the puck with no blade? There's got to be a way to do it. I better figure it out now because if it ever happens again, I don't want to not know.
Right.
I thought, oh my God, that is outstanding. And I don't know much about hockey in general, but that approach to just every little detail, so attractive. So attractive.
I
How do
love
you
it.
how do you coach attention to detail with your kids and your adults? So tell me about that.
Yeah, so right, I mean, attention to details about everything. So all the processes behind Parisi are built around fundamental movements. So the entire warm up is very fundamentally sound. It's designed around each class, whether it be acceleration, multi-directional speed, or strength. Attention to detail is important. Toe up position is a key to success. The idea that the arm drive is going to be one of the most important pieces of what they do. It's breaking the little things down. So it's the ABCs of training. If they don't understand those fundamental movements, even the little ones, like the squat, that's our first exercise in our warm up. If they don't understand how to squat with their body weight, it's going to be detrimental for their success. So we really focus on developing those fundamental keys. Now, if you start getting into the classes, now you start talking about if it's acceleration day, they're going to learn the wall drive. If it's a maximal speed day, they're going to learn force production into leg recovery. If it's multi-directional speed, they're going to learn about the progressions of the speed skater. They got to get those things down before they actually get into the meat of a session. And by the way, guys, it doesn't matter if you had kids in the program for 9, 10 years, they're still dialing it down. I got a great one for you guys. We were at a big football clinic in Ohio. You'll like this, Jim, because it was Ohio. It's just outside of Cincinnati, and it was a program. It was a fundraiser, and Lauren's first and goal. And we did that for a while. And it was a coach who's coach at Lafayette College, whose daughter had spinal cancer. So it was a football clinic. So we were going up to this, and I brought my kids from my football academy. They're all juniors and seniors in high school. We get up there, and I get a call from my coach. My coaches were supposed to meet us there, and they said, "Hey, we have flat tire. We're not going to make it. We're just on the Pennsylvania border. We're not going to make this." I was like, ah. Well, one of my kids says, "I'll do it. I'll warm up all the linebackers." He goes, "I'll do it." So he jumps up there, does all that. And then one of the coaches walks up to him and says, "Coach, that was fantastic." He goes, "Thanks. We really appreciate it." And then he walks back down into the group and gets himself set up to do some football drills. And he said to me, he goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "That's a kid?" I said, "Yeah, 16-year-old kid." But he got it, man. That's attention to detail. He got it. And that's what I especially love about football. And I love that because that's the essence of everything is attention to detail. Because you get your ass handed to you if you don't have attention to detail.
Sure.
So I always love that story. That kid's such a great kid. Now he's a civil engineer. We're making a lot of money out west.
Well, he's gonna need attention to detail there, or those bridges are gonna fall down.
Yeah, you got that right.
Right.
That's for sure.
Can't be having that.
Yeah.
Road caving in. When you're working with different demographics or male, female, or pro, college, youth, or tennis or football, is there some commonalities you see with kids that they'll go from like a C to a B player, but they're kind of done, right? They're not really, they don't want to push any further. There's those that go from a B to an A player. What are those commonalities like for those that really, they go far and they maximize their talent? They might not go pro, right? But they maximize their talent and what they have, their physical limitations. What are some commonalities you see in both different groups?
I think that one of the big key elements is when you ask kids this, or you tell kids this all the time. I tell them every single time we have an evaluation, I tell kids this. We'll say, "Guys, listen, good athletes kind of just do what they're supposed to do. That's what they do. The great ones will do more than anybody else is willing to do." So if we're giving them the tools, to do the things better, you're supplying that right to them. You'll know the exact kind of kid that can succeed and excel. You'll know right away. That's the commonality. I can just sense it. Even in the evaluation process, I'll know that kid. The kid that's leaning forward and listening to everything I say about their technique and focusing on everything. And when you look at them and say, "Is this a program you feel is going to work for you?" Their parent doesn't answer. They answer, "Yes, I want to do this." Yes. So I think that's a commonality. Now, from a physical standpoint, you'll know right away which kids are probably going to be the most talented kid. That doesn't mean that they necessarily the most physically gifted when you first meet them, but you see their work ethic and the intangibles that they bring to the table. But guys, what do we say? 7% of the high school population plays in college total, right. Division 1, 2, and 3, and of that, I think it's 0.1% or 2% that goes.
2% plays D1. 2% plays D1, and a fraction of 0.1% plays pro.
Well, and even so, the pros, like I said, I've been pretty blessed, guys, from even before Parisi. Within a week of leaving doing personal training, that's a story I can tell you guys about because I grew up in the Nautilus world. I cut my teeth in super slow to failure and met Arthur Jones and all that fun stuff in the 90s. But I went from 1 week after leaving and starting my own business to training professional tennis players in Boca Raton, Florida. Like at the blink of an eye, I didn't even know really what I was doing at that point because
I'll be looking for a date.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, it was a good time down there. Let's just say in my 20s and early 30s. But I mean, it would literally be, guys. I'd work till 11 o'clock in the morning. I'd be on the beach the rest of the day for 3 weeks. 3 weeks out of a month. It was great. It was a great time. But even that gets a little boring after a
But
while.
now you're in Philadelphia, where it's just the same beach, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Water's the same.
Same. Right on the Delaware River and the Schuylkill.
Right.
But I think when you meet the kids and you kind of find their personalities and you look at their attention to detail, you know fairly quickly which are the kids that are going to kind of rise to the top. And like I said, also, I want kids that are leaders. I want kids that are going to take charge. I want kids that are going to be invested in not only themselves, but their teammates, invested in their classmates. And that's what I think is an important piece. And um, the difference between the kids that kind of just are there because they're there. Yeah, you got to do sports performance, and the kids that are craving it and really want it. I always say there's two kinds of kids: the kids that are their parents are dragging them in the door, and then there are kids that are sprinting through the door to get into your facility.
Right.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
In teaching sprinting,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're running the 100 and the 200. It's very technical.
Yeah.
4 to 6 yards A to B in football.
Yep.
Right. Basketball court, a lot of side to side. You got to run down the court, but you're not really necessarily sprinting unless it's a fast break. Tennis, side to side. There's still the mechanics of sprinting, and everything kind of matters,
Mm-hmm.
but it matters more in track because that's the sport itself. How granular do you get with high school kids on sprinting technique because they're not sprinting as the sport? It's not, a lot of times it's not even straight line.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of some similar mechanics.
Sure.
Right. So how granular do you get, and how do you say, all right, man, like you're good here. Box is checked. Your core is weak. Let's work on that instead.
I think it's exactly what you just said. I think that what you do is there are there are genetic limitations with speed anyway. You have a genetic component. I mean, I've been pretty blessed. My brother, who doesn't train at all, he's 2 inches taller than me, and when in a flat 100, he was faster than me. He couldn't beat me in the 200 because he was lazy and didn't train. Sorry, I have to shout out to my brother. Sorry, Greg, didn't mean that. But yeah, you can't get too deep with these kids about the mechanics of sprinting. That's why the multi-directional speed and the acceleration is so important. They do have to know what maximal speed feels like, because you'll get this a lot of times. I'll have coaches and parents say, well, my kid plays soccer. He never gets to max speed. Yeah, yes, he does. Yes, they do. These kids are incredibly weak. They're not particularly technically sound. So fairly quickly, they're going to get up to what is their maximal speed. So they have to train that. But it's exactly what you said, Jim. Check that box. I need their core strong. I need them stable. I need them less likely to be injured. I need them to be able to change direction really well. And I'll give them, but they still have to know how to sprint. Just like sprinters need to learn multi-directional speed. That's the fallacy of it, because there's still some muscle groups they've got to be using that they're going to be using in sprinting. So
Sure.
It's a holistic approach to training, I think. And I would never leave anything out. Even if I got to tell you guys, I got a kid who's 14 right now who just said he's leading Pennsylvania in the 60 right now at 7.29, and he runs 22.7 miles an hour on the Woodway. This is a ridiculously genetically gifted kid, but he's also an unbelievable football player, an unbelievable lacrosse player. So his big thing is going to be when he's older, like how much money is he going to get? That's going to be the key. Is the NIL deal? Is it? And it's unfortunate that that's the way it goes, but I get it. But that kid could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the anomalies. Most kids, I got to tell you, my frustration, I'm sure both of you, Jim, and you and Lucas know this, these kids are so weak.
Yes.
Physically weak.
Yes.
Now, we're not even talking about the mental aspect of it. They are physically incapable of doing anything.
Yes.
So that frustrates me to no end. And when I hear a parent say, no strength training, and then you give them the facts, you give them the data, you give them the science, and they still say, nope, not doing it. I'm like, I just don't get it.
We're just over For us, it's great that we're just over 70 episodes and haven't missed a week. The other folks in the world have done 400. Like Zach Avanesh is like 500 episodes deep. However, in our 70 college and pro athletes, Dr. Klutwijk, he's the trainer, or he's the doctor, the knee doctor for the Colts.
Yep.
Indiana State. He's all over the world. He's on different boards internationally for the knee, talking about how people are weak and how there's imbalances, hamstring versus quad, and leads to ACL tears, etc. We've had pro volleyball players say, "Hey, once I got my ACL fixed, I took a year and got really stronger. So then my vertical went through the roof, and I no longer got hurt anymore because I lifted for a year." And we have the the strength coach for the Marlins come on and saying, "Yeah, kids are weak. If they didn't spend so much time at hitting and pitching lessons and got stronger, they would be physical units that would be smashing people." And I'm like, I can't give you any more overwhelming evidence, parents. And they just say no to me, or others. Some say yes, and they get better. We put kids in colleges to play sports, right? We have every year, and it's like we're doing the basics, the absolute basics, like basic sumo deadlift, so they have some better hips, and pushing some sleds. It's the basics,
right.
And it's it's easy for us, because at the bottom, like they're not strong. Just doing the absolute basics, and it's hard because it feels like you're arguing with a drunk, and you keep giving the data. And I said, well, you're gonna know at some point in the next 5 years how right or wrong I was. Just come back and tell me, so I have more data. And but they're everywhere, and I'm like we're at where we guarantee results.
Yeah.
Even with our CrossFit adults, you average 3 days a week. We'll retest you in 3 months. You're going to be better. And if not, here's all your money back. And they're like, really? I go, yeah, well, I'm undefeated. That's how I can make that argument. I'm not going to jeopardize my own money unless I have with a money back guarantee, unless I can guarantee it.
Of course. Yeah.
Now, how often do you got these kids out of season training max velocity in a week's time? So you got like a baseball kid, or a basketball kid, how often? Because you can't run max velocity. It's a max effort. It's like squatting. You can't be max effort every day.
No.
But roughly, how often and how many sets and reps that's going to get enough stimulus to keep pushing them?
Well, I think you'll make enough inroads if an athlete's training twice a week. Ideal world, they're going to train 3 days a week. The rep schemes really depend, guys. It really depends on the class that you're doing, because we split up our classes specifically for acceleration, and we go through max acceleration, pure acceleration, clearing acceleration, then max velocity movements, and then multi-directional speed. So it really depends on the day based on the volume. It also depends on the kids. It depends on where they are in their cycle. We talk to them about, if they're not lifting with us, where are you lifting? What are you doing? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? All those variables come into play. Now, the problem is exactly what you just said. Like, what sports got an off season now? So now we're faced with it. There's no off seasons. I mean, even football is getting to the point where, guys, I used to have a football academy that would go January 4th to about May 30th, and it would just work on all these different things. Not now. I have a month with them. February 1 is when everything starts for these kids. And that's become a serious problem. And they're all doing 77s, and they're all doing all these crazy things. And I got to tell you, every sport's in this position now. I've got parents who'll go, all right, we did the eval. That's great. Unfortunately, we can't start till June. We just evaluated in February. You can't start till June. Yeah, my daughter's playing on 2 field hockey teams, a soccer team. She does gymnastics, and we swim on the weekends too. So
it's funny.
I've had parents say, well, let's do once a week or once every other week. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I actually had a parent that, you'll love this one. They're like, you don't want to take our money. I said, no, I didn't say that. You said that. Of course I want to. I'm a for-profit business. I want to take your money.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it if it's not going to be beneficial for your child or detrimental for your child.
Sure.
I'm at that point now in my career where I can say that.
Yep.
So, there's a vast, we use the Train Heroic system, and there's a vast kind of wide net that we can cast on which kids. And by the way, we might have 6 or 7 or 8 kids in the same class that all play a different sport. So we have to analyze all that too. So my coaches, and I'm hiring more, so I'm getting old. I'm hiring more. I want them to do it and learn how to do it. It's a new generation. Chad said the same thing. We're old dudes, man. I need to run things a little differently and do some other things too, not just sports performance, but help adults kind of find their way too.
Yeah.
Now, how many of those kids that you train that do all these other sports, how many of them have lingering injuries or hurt every training session that you see them? Like, how
60 to 70%.
Right.
I see, it's the kids that I train, they do a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the 7-on-7 football stuff, all the 7-on-7 training.
AAU basketball.
And every single one of those guys is never at 100%. And when I talk to them, like, if I put your week out, if I wrote your week down and graded you, like, how do you feel on this day, Sunday through Saturday? Do you ever feel above 50%, above 75%? Do you ever feel 100% ready to go? And they're like, no, I'm always kind of having to really push to get going in everything that I do. Well, I'm like, well, you can't give 100% here in the weight room, and then you can't really go and give 100% at your 7-on-7 stuff, and you just can't ever give 100%. So your average, if I had to grade you, your average grade is a C or a D. That's what your performance is like if you had to really look at it like that. Like,
yeah.
So, and how are you going to get to an A? How are you going to get that grade to an A? And usually it comes with dropping something. Something has to go some way because you're not recovering, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, which in turn doesn't allow you to train hard. Anything that you do.
But I think, Lucas, what you just said is so true. And the problem is what gets dropped is the training.
Yep.
Yeah. Every time.
We have a generation, an entire generation of kids that overplay a sport and undertrain their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't do a chin up, you can't do a push up, but you're playing 17 games of soccer over the weekend. And because unfortunately this industry is built around, no, you got to play more soccer. Why? Because the club team's got to make more money. So that's an unfortunate byproduct of this entire thing, which really sucks because, like, you said, they're a weak generation. It's not that they don't know any better. That the unfortunate thing is their parents really literally think they're going to all play Division I sports. And I mean, the three of us, we've seen the people that do that. We got that, but that's not the majority. That's just not.
No.
I just had conversation with. It is funny that they don't realize it until they are faced with, some of them do it and some of them get opportunities to go to the next level. Some of them are Division I. I'm around Division I guys all the time, every day, that are going to have opportunities. And when they start to learn more and they start to get those offers and they take their visits and they see what they do, it kind of hits them. By that time, they're so far back, they're still going to go, but they're going to be behind everybody when they get there. Hopefully, if all those other guys aren't doing the same thing. But I just had a conversation with one of our football guys about, what do you think these Division I football players are doing right now in the off season? I don't know. Well, I've been there. I've seen it. They're not doing 7-on-7s. They're not out working on skills and drills. Their coaches aren't even allowed to be with them until May. They're not even allowed to do it. So all they're doing their conditioning, they're doing their strength training.
Yep.
That's all they're doing. That is literally, unless they're going with a trainer outside, which, maybe they are. That's the only time they're going to be working on skills and drills. But
Lucas, I'll tell you this too. I mean, you know this because you're a high school strength and conditioning coach. My biggest thing is I'm always trying to be cooperative with the coaches in our area and say to them basically, look, guys, we're an adjunct to what you guys do. That's what we are. And really my job is if you looked at it and said how many kids that you've got under your tutelage and you're looking at it and going, well, we're not going to work on acceleration. Here's what I don't want to do. I never want to do this because most of the time the strength training is handled within school. That's great. The high school kids, I would rather them not be in our strength training program if they're in a really good strength training program at school. Our elementary kids, sure. Our middle school kids, absolutely, because at least they're learning the fundamentals with us. So when they get to you, they're looking at you're like, wow, this kid really knows how to deadlift. This kid knows how to squat. This kid knows how to bench. This kid knows how to do chin-ups and pull-ups. So that was always a dance, guys, because I've been doing this a long time, and I've been around some high-powered football programs, the Downingtowns and the Coatesvilles and everything like that. And it was always a cooperation, and it was always like, guys, I'm not here to to do your job. That's not my job. My job is very, very different. And it's what Jim was talking about, teaching those fundamentals of acceleration and maximal speed and multi-directional speed. But I don't get much time with them. We call it the rule of 166 because when we got the kids for 2 hours, I always ask the kids, how many hours are in a week? Like how many hours? 24 times 7. After me just sitting there. One girl said, she's like, I think there's 1,000 hours in a week. I was like, no, it's not that. It's 168. If they're with us for 2 hours, they got 166 more hours to work on something during the week to make themselves better. That's it. And learn, like, that's the attention to detail. So I think that's the hard part is that balance.
And props to you, man, because there's not a lot of places don't do that, and it's the high school strength and conditioning from around here where I'm at is looked at as if we're the enemy, as if we're taking people's money away by keeping them at the school. And part of my question is I think all of us that do a good job, we're trying to build a culture and trying to get our guys in the building to help build a team, chemistry, culture, all that good fun stuff. And nothing is going to build a team more than grinding in the weight room with each other all off season. That's how you're gonna build a team. But you can't. It was funny because I had the same senior I was talking to about. He brought me he's going to Cincinnati next year to play football. Nice. He brought me his big old workout manual. He's like, "Hey, coach, can I do this in class? Because I don't really have any other time to do it." Well, okay, yeah, let's work together here. Well, we're going through it. He's like, we do literally everything that they do at Cincinnati, just a high school version of it, And he knows how to do everything, and it's everything that I've been preaching and talking about and coaching. He's seeing it like just in the manual. He's seeing that it's all the same stuff. It's not crazy. It's not over the top scientific. It's basic stuff, but it's they see it sometimes too late.
Agreed.
And they're like you said earlier, they're just kids. How would they know until they know? I guess
Well, Lucas, you'll like this. So I trained a backup tight end for the Jets, Kenny Yeboah, and I had mentioned that he'd be a great guest for you guys. So Kenny's dynamite kid, but he said to me, he goes, "Take a look at the Jets strength training program." And I looked at it. If I send it to you, which I will, I'll send it over to you. You'd look at it and go, "We do all this stuff. It's the same stuff. There's nothing. It's not rocket science." Yeah. Although Bill might argue with you, it is a little bit of rocket science with this. But I'll tell you where I am right now, Lucas, in my thought process. I like to coach coaches. So yeah. My role should be more now. All right, well, we have all these incredible things that you as coaches could take advantage of, right? I'd want to do that more than, to be honest with you guys, more than coaching kids now. I want to coach coaches and teach coaches and create the culture for coaches where you guys can say, okay, look, it's not just Parisi holding it to themselves anymore, which they did for the longest time. Now it's getting out in the entire general population of coaches and say, guys, you can add this to your strength program. You can add all this. You can add the acceleration. You can, not that you're not doing it, but there's just more. There's more variety now that you can play with now. And that's I'd look at it and go, I'd want to run a coach's clinic at your school. I don't want to coach kids. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Like me, I want to coach coaches. And I also think if anybody has a Parisi speed school in some community and they cause friction, that's a real serious ego problem coming from the speed school. That's a problem, Lucas. Where me, I go out and certify people all over the country, and my word of caution to everybody is, guys, you have a coaching culture here. You want to make sure you're cooperative. You don't want it to be where you're pushing against the very nature of the foundation they're trying to build in the school. Like that, that's a no-no. That's my personal opinion.
No, I love that. It's just something that's not very prominent, especially with high school coaches involved.
Well, anywhere in any organization, military, Chrysler, whatever, there's always egos, right? And, and that's why teamwork has to be a core value, because you don't get there alone. Like, you have to cooperate with those other coaches at the other schools and your kids, right?
Sure.
And the parents. And even if we're all right about what we're saying, if we can't reach them, we have no product, we have no service because we're not coaching anybody. If we can't reach the parent and help them understand, we can't reach the other coach and help them understand with the kid, it doesn't matter that we're right, right? I could be saying, hey, a 5x5 bench is going to be good for you because you're the absolute beginner. And they're like, fuck you, I'm not doing it. well, here we are.
Yeah.
To your point about being overwhelmed, like I did a clinic last week with adults, and one of the adults is like, hey, I'm always sore. I'm just working 4 days. I'm training 4 days a week. A conjugate split, not a lot of time. I go, how many hours do you sleep? He goes, not quite 6. And on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your average stress level through the week? He goes 10. And on weekends, he goes like 8 or 9. I say, okay. And then when I talk to the kids, completely different animal. You say you're playing multiple sports, and they come to us. When's your downtime? When you do nothing? Like, you're so stressed. So the phrase I always say, and in the book, is it's not how hard can you train. How hard can you train, recover, and then train hard again? Right? If you're not doing those things, you're wrecked.
Yes.
To your point on the kids being weak or strong, I'll give you 3 stats right off the bat. 4 stats. I had a 17-year-old baseball kid in last week, could only bench 115. I had an 18-year-old going to play D3 basketball, senior, couldn't squat 135. I go to my niece's volleyball tournament over the weekend, which is, 8 games maybe. And each game has 2 to 3 sets. And you're jumping and jumping and jumping. And she's 14, 15. It was just under 50%. Either the girls were wearing ankle or knee braces. Right? So you see the injury risk, right?
Yep.
On the flip side, Carson Steele, kind of famous little rookie running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, was a same year as my son, and they both played at Ball State for 2 years. Well, Carson's freshman year at Ball State, he squatted 500 for 10. Right? He's 18. He squatted 500 for 10. Can you make the leap that, yeah, he has some leg and body strength to handle the load, and now he's playing in the NFL? It's not a big stretch.
Not at all.
You run fast and you don't hold on, and you hold on to the ball, you're going to be able to handle that stuff. So you see the weakness and then injuries. You see this enormous level of strength, which then leads to power and speed.
Yep.
He's playing a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Just keep giving more data, and hopefully they can make a better decision.
Great.
So you like working with kids and adults, but you're coaching more coaches, right?
Yeah.
What's the hopes and plans here for the next 3, 5, 10 years?
Well, interesting. I should say that. So I'm launching my own online coaching program called the Tsunami Effect, and it's more for high level coaches who've been in the industry a long time, who've done actually pretty well financially, or coaches at the collegiate level, executives, everything, kind of looking at their pain points and how to overcome fear, anxiety, frustration, and depression. Because I call it the tsunami effect, because it's the small ripples out in the ocean. You don't see them, don't feel them until it comes on shore, and then it's destructive, and it's multiple waves of destruction, and it can ruin everything. So I'm building that program. That's, by the way, the book's going to be, that's going to be a big piece of it. Okay. And also doing some consulting now with a good friend of mine who I absolutely think you should have on the show, Rob Oshinsky, who runs Victory Sports Performance in Central Pennsylvania in State College. He's very highly connected with Penn State wrestling, Penn State football, Penn State lacrosse, Penn State, like everything Penn State. Great, dynamite guy. So we partnered up and we're doing consulting for health clubs now as well. And we're teaching personal trainers how they can make more money, number one, but also increase and improve the culture of their gyms. So that's a project called the Winner's Circle. So there's actually, guys, a lot of things going on. A lot of new things going on with, and that's when I said to you, Lucas, I'm more focused on the coaching culture of stuff. And so that's an exciting piece. Speaking as well, I'm getting out and starting to speak at conferences and starting to. I just applied for a TED Talk on the culture of coaching youth athletes. That's a process, man. That was like a full-time job trying to get that set up. And so we'll see what happens. So that's where I'm looking, 3 to 5 years. I'm also looking at guys. I mean, there's the finite time that I can actually do the physical coaching with people. I'm banged up, two artificial knees. The kids wouldn't even know it, but I know it. And if you're talking 5 years from now, I'm going to be in my 60s. So I got to start thinking a little differently now. Creating legacy for my son is a very important piece of this, so that Cole has a legacy. And that's a big part of what I'm doing. And listen, honestly, setting up a future for myself and my girlfriend, Karen, that's a big piece of this as well. Can't be on the turf for the rest of my life. That's for sure. Boy, that was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Yes. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So you played sports, continue to compete yourself for a while. You coach some kids, and now you're having some successes and advancing with the speaking and book, etc. And like I'm doing speaking, I'm at book digital course.
Yeah.
For you though, why? No, why really? Not just superficial. Because I'll ask you why 17 more times to get to the real why. So
yeah. Again, I'll tell you exactly. So legacy is a big piece of things for me. Staking a legacy for my son. That if he stepped back and looked at it, what did his dad accomplish? I'm serving people and I'm helping as many people as I possibly can. I can help a lot more people, honestly, guys, not on the turf, but off the turf, to create more culture, to imbue more culture and storytelling in other coaches so they can get out and create their own legacies. That's that ripple effect. I still think it's that piece of that tsunami where now you can use it for the good of things and how deeply you can affect a culture and create better community, bring out better leaders that are going to serve more kids. And down the line, I mean, that's ultimately what you want. Listen, guys, I had a father who died when I was 18 years old. My dad was an alcoholic, drank himself to death, smoked. But my dad was, that's not what killed him. My dad could not face up to his fears. He just couldn't do it. And I want people to realize, like, before it's too late, that you got to get out there, you got to affect the community, and you got to affect the culture around you. And if it starts with kids, that's great. If you can talk to coaches, though, like Lucas and Jim, for you guys, learning from you guys is so important to me because it expands my growth and my culture, so I can get and establish more legacy for what I want to be remembered for in the end. That's what I'm feeling.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Please do.
But yeah, I heard you started off with legacy and leave an impact.
Yep.
And then it went to your dad passing away.
Yep.
Probably too soon.
Yep.
And then there's the fear. And so the legacy is that, people, if you're around an alcoholic, you could be an alcoholic. So if you're around someone who's very fearful, then you could be fearful. And then in sports and in the weight room, you learn to handle conflict. And conflict handled really well strengthens relationships. You versus the bar, you versus your spouse, you with your teammates. How much is the legacy about people handling their own fears and growing through that so that the next generation is a stronger mentally and they can handle their fears and the trials and tribulations for them and their family?
Well, that may have just exactly codified everything I'm thinking. It was a game changer just now for me. When you look at it, you're right. It is overcoming, not just overcoming the fear, but also dealing with it. Yeah. And being able to teach from that to other people how they can deal with it. Boy, that was, oof. You just blew me away, man.
I got lucky.
You blew me away on that one.
Well, there's probably some similarities with you and me.
Yeah, for sure.
In our backgrounds with our parents. And so you recognize that in other people. So very, very generous and humble that you be that authentic. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
When you, how about when you're lifting yourself?
Yeah.
What do you listen to?
So I'm a grunge guy. So I love Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Screaming Trees. I'll throw in some 80s hair bands, because I'm from that generation.
Yeah.
Maybe even go back a little Zeppelin every so often. But yeah, I'm a grunge guy, man. I love it.
There's a new documentary out in the theaters on making Led Zeppelin. I'm gonna probably see that.
I'm going to see that too. That'll be a good one.
If there's a band I could go back and see in time, that's definitely number one for me, probably.
Well, that would be good. I have to say I'm very blessed. I got to see AC/DC, the last couple concerts that Bon Scott was in. I was a little kid in 1977 and saw it.
Wow.
Before he drank himself into an early grave.
What's a bucket list adventure, place to go, thing to do with you and your girlfriend, or just you by yourself, but you haven't done it yet?
Yeah, I mean, I want to go to the Amazon.
Really?
Yeah, I want to go to the Amazon. I want to check that out. I want to see the wildlife. I want to experience that. I don't know if she'd agree with that, but I definitely would love to be in the Amazon at some point, for sure. Yeah.
You got a favorite sports movie?
I do. Hoosiers. I love it. Absolutely. But Gene Hackman is so brilliant in that movie. I just love that movie.
But everyone, man, even the drunk guy, he's excellent too, right?
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, and Barbara Hershey, who I hated most of that film, but she played her role really well.
She really did. And the kids were awesome.
The kids were.
They really were, yeah. That's my favorite.
And it's great, I can go to Butler Fieldhouse. My wife's youngest is a student there. So we go there to watch a game. That's where they filmed the finals.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Oh, yeah. It's still the same building.
Oh, that's awesome.
Outstanding facility to go watch. It's so old, but it's still awesome.
It's like the Palestra in Philly.
Right.
Same thing, yeah.
How about a favorite sport to watch?
Oh, I'm a football guy. I love football. Yeah.
Favorite athlete? Past, present?
So football player or favorite athlete in general?
Athlete in general.
Guys, I'm a Jack Lambert fan, man. I'm a defense guy. I love Jack Lambert. Was the epitome. You can tell I'm a Steelers fan, obviously. So, that's just. But yeah, Lambert with Mel Blount, a close second.
I like a number of Steelers.
Yeah.
I had tremendous respect for Paul Malu because he was so athletic.
Yes.
For me, I had to read this book in high school, Rocky Blyer.
Yeah.
So he got shot up in Vietnam, came back, insurance salesman, and pay the bills, but still makes it on the Steelers team and plays.
Yeah. It's a remarkable story.
Remarkable story.
Yeah.
Outside of football, you have a favorite athlete?
Yeah, track and field was Michael Johnson.
Oh wow, the gold shoes.
I got to see him live. I was on ground level at the Penn Relays when he ran a 42.96 in the anchor leg of a 4x400.
That's gross.
I never saw anything like that in my life. It was to see it doesn't, TV cannot do speed justice.
Right.
People have no idea how fast is until you see it at ground level.
You know what's awesome to see in terms of speed? And I watched the Derby, but if you're at the Derby and you're close and you hear the sound and you see the striations in the horse's upper torso when they're hauling ass down that straightaway.
I love that.
Like you could just, the crowd kind of like they stand up and then it gets louder and louder as it gets to the finish line. It is awesome. Awesome. How about any books you think we should read?
So I read a lot, but I'm gonna kind of leverage another Steeler situation. Their Life's Work by Gary Pomerantz. That's the story about how Chuck Noll treated every single player on that championship squad. He would bring future Hall of Fame players in and basically say, look, you need to move on with your life's work. Football's over. You need to find what you're calling now because football is not your calling. And I always felt, like I said, I read a lot, but that was one of my favorite things that I realized in sports, that it's not just about the sport. It's the legacy you carry beyond it.
Gotcha. Now, fictional or non-fictional? Could be real life.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Could be in a comic book. Could be any story. Hero and villain.
Okay. Well, so first of all, this is my favorite superhero of all time is Captain America. So Chad and I have something very much in common. I just like the wholesome nature of what he represented and everything like that. Favorite villain's a little off. I'm a big Darth Vader fan. Vader's my favorite villain of all time. Probably the greatest villain ever, in my opinion. Tragic, but the greatest villain ever.
You know,
that's what I think.
I like Sidious.
Well, yeah, he's the ultimate because he's pure evil.
Yeah.
There's
He's my
nothing
favorite
redeeming.
villain.
Nothing redeeming about him at all.
No.
No.
I just love the 1 through 3, just seeing
Yes.
like him play politics and just put everything into motion.
I like that.
I love it.
Well, Lucas, have you watched Andor yet?
I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
So I will tell you this: it's the best show that they've made because it's the banality of evil. And when you watch it, you watch the insidious nature of the Empire, and you see them for what they really are, not some bumbling fools. They're violent, vicious. It's great.
And the thing I love about it that's just kind of ironic, like, I never really realized Star Wars was so political.
Oh, it's all political.
But like everybody voted that guy in.
Yeah.
They put him there.
Come back tears and laughter and claps.
Yes.
I liked Maul in that series. He wasn't evil. He was just rage.
Yeah, he was rage. Pure rage.
And I was like, oh, he's just going to fight.
Yeah.
Cool.
Last year, I not shamefully, but I watched every Star Wars thing you could watch.
I love it.
In chronological order. That's if I watched anything on TV, I watched 1 through 4. I watched the Clone Wars. I watched all the animated crap all the way through the end. It was long time.
That is long. I was there opening night, 1977. My dad took me to see the first Star Wars film. Yeah, and I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see Herbie the Love Bug because I had no idea. I was like, nobody knew what it was. Right. And then I saw the Star Destroyer, and I was like, oh, this is it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
You get a lot of people, and I agree. I like the Joker, especially Heath Ledger's version.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. I saw that one in the theaters. You want to talk about it's that chess mind combined with the viciousness that for some reason I like it.
Agreed.
Yeah. What's your favorite lift?
Deadlift. Yeah, straight bar deadlift. Love it.
What about sumo?
I don't mind.
so nice about it.
I don't mind. I mean, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
No, I have to be a little bit more careful now with these titanium knees. I got to be always aware of what's going on with my legs now. But I still love it.
Yeah.
How
about you got a quote for us?
Yeah, you guys want another one? This is Chuck Noll, little Pittsburgh coach.
So
Noll said that great players don't do anything extraordinary. They just do the ordinary better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe.
Virtuosity.
Yep.
Where can people get a hold of you?
Well, I think the easiest way is Instagram, at Coach Eric Mitchell. That's the easiest way to do it. I'm building my brand through that, through the Instagram platform. That's the easiest way for people to get a hold of me. And by the way, I know your listeners, man, I am open to any questions, any comments they want. They just want to talk. You'll learn if you learn from Chad. Like we go to these certifications, and I put it out there and say, I give my cell phone, my email address, and I tell the staffs, guys, you're part of my family, so you got to call me, you got to contact me, and they do. It's remarkable over the years how many coaches just to talk.
Yeah,
and I'm very open about that because I want people to. I want to learn too. So for me, it's a learning process as well.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, for those that still or you're new to the show, you want to get a hold of Eric through us, or you want to ask us questions, it's info@athlete-builder.com. Shout out to Jocko Fuel, big fans. Looking forward to seeing them at the Arnold here in a couple of weeks. Lucas is competing at the Arnold again, so looking forward to that. The book, as you know, is out, but the planner that goes along with it. How do you track your habits? Because you improve what you measure. That's with the planner. It's out now on Amazon. Digital course is out. And as of today, June 7th, will be the Athlete Builder Summit. More to follow down the road. But we already locked up Anthony Castor on peptides and supplements and things like that. So should be good. So, Eric, man, loved having you on.
I love being here. Thank you for the opportunity. It was great.
Yeah, had a great time. And happy birthday to your son.
Thank you. I'll tell him.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Lucas.